some quotes on this day that I think are really important. Justice for black people will not flow into this society merely from court decisions nor from fountains of political oratory. White America must recognize that justice for black people cannot be achieved without radical changes in the structure of our society. See if this is going to work for me. The evils of capitalism are as real as the evils of militarism and racism. The problems of racial justice and economic injustice cannot be solved without a radical redistribution of political and economic power. A nation that continues year after year to spend more money on military defense than on programs of social uplift is approaching spiritual death. And true peace is not merely the absence of tension, it is the presence of justice. Whites, it must be frankly said, are now putting in a similar mass effort to re-educate themselves out of their racial ignorance. It is an aspect of their sense of superiority that the white people of America believe they have so little to learn. The reality of substantial investment to assist Negroes into the 20th century, adjusting to Negro neighbors, and genuine school integration is still a nightmare for all too many white Americans. These are the deepest causes for contemporary abrasions between the races. Loose and easy language about equality, resonate resolutions about brotherhood, fail pleasantly on the ear. But for the Negro, this is a credibility gap he cannot overlook. He remembers that with each modest advance, the white population promptly raises the argument that the Negro has come far enough. Each step forward a sense, an ever-present tendency to backlash. Again, we have deluded ourselves into believing the myth that capitalism grew and prospered out of the Protestant ethic of hard work and sacrifices. Capitalism was built on the exploitation of black slaves and continues to thrive on the exploitation of the poor, both black and white, both here and abroad. I must confess that over the past few years, I've become gravely disappointed with the white moderate. I've almost reached the regrettable conclusion that the Negro's greatest stumbling block in his stride towards freedom is not the white citizens counselor or the KKK, but the white moderate who is more devoted to order than to justice. I want to ask you all, does anyone want to take a guess at who's made some of these statements? Anybody know? Yeah, all of these are quotes from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Every single one of them. And we have to ask ourselves why oftentimes we don't hear these statements. That oftentimes we have got a watered down version of MLK. Instead of being in the South like my grandmother's sweet tea mixed with lemonade version that you know is just so real and raw that that's actually what he was giving us. We have to ask ourselves why that's the case. We heard earlier about the way that everyone is trying to attach themselves to MLK and act like they were supporting him back then. He was public enemy number one. I mean,